Yes, I was quite dubious about becoming a monk in the first place. I just wanted to extend my practice a little bit, but I wasn't sure whether I wanted to take on the responsibility, I suppose it is, of becoming a monk, of ordaining as a monk officially. Uh, Jinan Roshi has always told me since I've been here, he says, "You're a monk already." I mean, I live like a monk. I do monk things. We do all the monk practices here. We chant in the morning and the afternoon, and we do takatsu, the arms round. So I'm effectively living as a monk anyway. But just, I think time and comfort, not comfort, that's the wrong word, uh, sort of adaptation of myself to the environment here has enabled me to sort of let go of some of my trepidation and that coupled with the fact that I always wanted this to be authentic practice. That's why I came here in the first place, was so that I could come to the source in Japan of one of the schools of Zen. Uh, and I think to be able to do that, you need to sort of let go of some of the things that are holding you back, and that was the reason I've decided to ordain. Look, if I hadn't met Jin Roshi, I might not still be practicing Zen because I would be doing it again by remote, which was fine. I mean, I could do the basics of sitting and trying to let go of thought and whatnot by myself, but I would have been sort of stuck at that level of things for a long time. And there's life to live, and so you get stuck doing other things. And so I'm not sure that I would have stayed on the same path. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because I'm on the path that I'm on. There is no other path. This is the path that I've taken, and so I'm still here. And I'll be here for a little while yet in Japan. And when I leave, I think I'll have had enough time and experience to be able to sort of push forward with that that I might not have had earlier on without that time training. But we will continue our relationship. Jin and Roshi comes to Australia usually annually. He's been stuck with the pandemic crisis over the last couple of years, but he'll be coming back to Australia next year and hopefully years after that as well. And I'll be involved in the other end of that. He'll be pitching, I'll be catching, and we'll make sure that he can talk the Dharma in Australia as well as here. Yeah, my family are great. They know I'm a bit of a weirdo, and I have lived out of Australia for the last 20 years, so they're used to me not being there. My kids are, when I say my kids are 40 and 38, so they're not quite kids anymore. So they're grown up with their own kids. I have 5 grandchildren. My grandchildren are sometimes a bit wary about what's going on with Granddad. What's all this bald head and Zen robes and whatnot. Yeah, but my children are very supportive and just want me to do what I need to do. Look, there's a number of ways you could start a practice if you were remote from a place where you could go and train. One is to be able to just visit for a short time and then go back and practice the things that you've learned while you've visited. One is an online option. Everyone's doing things online now. At the time I started my online practice about 10 years, well, not quite 10 years ago, there was maybe only 1 or 2 places that were doing that, and they were shunned. They were frowned upon by the larger community, the larger Zen community. And now, through COVID and whatnot, everyone's doing it. All of the Japanese Zendos are doing it. The American Zendos are doing it. Everyone's sort of incorporated this sort of remote learning thing, which I think is fantastic. But I think that being said, there's still a need for some face-to-face training with a teacher at some time or another. So, yeah, I would recommend to people that if they were living remotely, that they explore both where they can go and visit and get some ideas for a short time, do a weekend, do a week, do a session, and then come back and spend a year trying to make that into something, and then go back a year later and try all that all over again. Uh, or the remote option, and then you could find an option every day to do something online. And then if you're at the stage where you think you want to make a commitment, then there's places like this that you can come to for an extended period of time, both overseas and in Japan, that will take you on. It just depends on what your goal is. We talked about not having a goal before, but I think everyone needs to have an initial goal to motivate them to get up off their own cushion. And like to come to Japan, it'd be very difficult for someone to have no goal and leave their own country and come live in Japan for 9 months or a year. So yeah, figure out what your goal is and figure out how you can work that out. I'm now retired, and it took until I was retired to be able to sort of get myself unencumbered enough to be able to come to Japan for a long period of time. So look, I think it's perfectly viable for people to stay where they are, and if there's a legitimate Zen practice centre in the city where they live or somewhere close that they can get to, that's a great option. I don't know that you have to come to Japan. I was sort of driven to come to Japan by circumstance, and certainly that video I was talking about of Tendo San, the U.S. Marine to Zen monk, is just because that resonated with me so much, because the background was so similar to my own, that it just seemed to be calling out to me as the place to go, and I'm glad that I did. It's difficult to say that I actually live in Japan, because I don't live in Japan. I don't live a Japanese life. I live in the temple, in the Zendo, and we don't get out much, and so I don't see much of Japan. I don't go sightseeing. I don't hang out with a bunch of Japanese people. In fact, my Japanese, I used to speak a little bit of Nihongo, and I spent a 12-month intensive course learning Japanese, and I think my Japanese is now worse after the 9 months than it was when I actually got here, because I don't get an opportunity to talk very much because I'm training. But my experience here has been mixed, to be honest. Like I said earlier, it's been very tough at times, physically tough. Sitting and trying to discard thoughts out of your mind ends up being an exhausting process, and so there's some physiological aspect to it, just not just a mental aspect, but the whole body aspect that makes it a tough game. But we've got a great bunch of people here, and my teacher is a very unique individual, and we have at the moment, there's 4 of us living in, 4 of us residential here at Ononji, and we're all very, very different to each other, and different ages. We range from 33 to 64. Jinaroshi's 77 as well, so there's a wide age gap. We all come from very different backgrounds. I'm from overseas. Even the Japanese guys have got very different backgrounds themselves, and so it's a motley crew, but it seems to work very well. Look, I was in the army for 22 years. We have a certain amount of do's and don'ts, rules that you need to follow to maintain good order with a bunch of guys living in very close proximity to each other, because there can be clashes of personality and issues with personal space and a whole range of things. And our personal space is quite limited, so we all sleep in the same room on the floor, and we're virtually tripping over each other in the real sense. But there's 2 sides to it. One side is that there are some rules, there are some do's and don'ts, things that you do, like in the morning when we get up at 4:30. You don't get up at 4:20 because you think you want to have a quicker shave or start brushing your teeth earlier on, because you'll wake everybody else up, and that's just not done. So everyone sticks by the rules, and there's a whole bunch of rules that we stick by, and there's a formal practice to mealtime. the way we set the meals out, the way we eat our food, the way we wash up afterwards, etc. There's a whole range of things that are quite structured, and that makes it makes it so that you don't have to think about things too much because you just follow the bouncing ball. Like when I was in the army, we used to wear a uniform every day with our name on it. One, because maybe we weren't too bright, we had to figure out what our own name was, but we didn't have to think about what we were wearing every day because we just wore that same uniform every day, and it's the same here. And the reason these rules are put in place is very much for the same reason that they're done in the military, is that a bunch of guys in a very small space living in close proximity are going to get on each other's nerves unless there's a way to do that. So thankfully, that works a treat, and we still get on very well. Again, with age differences and differences in background, the fact that my Nihongo is atrocious, there's enough English and Japlish between us that we communicate quite well. I think the main thing that I'll take away from here when I do go is that I've still got lots to learn. That this isn't a period where you train for a certain amount of time and you win a prize at the end. It's an ongoing process, and this is just a bit of a stimulus for that process. It's sort of a bit of a fast track for the moment for me, and then I'll just go back to normal life after that. I think it's enabled me to engage with my practice in a more real manner. I think I was sort of maybe taking things for granted a little bit early on, and certainly before I came here, there was just something I did. I'd get up and I'd do a couple of sitting sessions in the morning and maybe a couple at night time. And yes, I was doing Zen. Everything was fine, and I got on with things. Not that it didn't help. I mean, some of my early Zen practice was really as therapy more than anything else. In fact, one of my Zen friends said to me, "Oh, that's not real Zen if you're just doing it for therapy." Well, I said, "Well, I wasn't just doing it for therapy. It just happened to be quite therapeutic." So I thought, well, that's an advantage. A sort of an unintentional advantage of having done the practice. So I think that was also been enhanced, and hopefully I'll just continue with the practice in that different. The context will be different back home. Eventually, back in Australia, with watching my grandkids grow up, and I'd like to be able to introduce the practice to other people as well. And I think that's a good thing to be able to do to help sort of spread the word about this thing that we do. And to have Jinoroshi at the other end to be able to receive anyone who's willing to come and make that commitment is a good thing.